Hi everyone, welcome. If you're new here, my name is Nuria and today we're going to make these trousers. For today's design, I'm going to be using the Slacks foundation, so if you don't have it yet, I'm going to link the video down below with the instructions. And as always, you can use any of the foundations you want, but to be honest, for this design, the Slacks are the ones that work the best, in my opinion. I think if you use the jeans foundation, it will be too tight, and if you use the trousers foundation, you're going to still have a lot of volume around your thighs. If that's the look you're going for, go ahead. But this is what we're going to do, so let's get into the drafting. For today's pattern, I'm going to be using the Slacks foundation. This is more of a difficult pattern, so we're going to go through it slowly. And I probably won't have enough space in this paper, so I'm going to add the pockets because this pattern has multiple pockets on another paper. So let's get into it. The first thing I want to do is bring this up because we're going to add some volume here at the bottom. And I want to align these two patterns to make sure that I'm doing everything in the same level. So I'm going to create a line here to make sure they are in the same place. And now that we have this line, we just align through the hip line, the back and the front. The next thing I'm going to do is mark all the pieces. I'm going to transfer all the lines and all the pieces. Now that we're done transferring all the lines, I'm going to add the lines here of how much more length we're going to add and how much more flare. So first I'm going to make a line to connect both hems. Now we're going to add a line that is 1.25 centimeters below the ankle line. And we're going to add another line that is 4 centimeters below the ankle line. And I'm going to extend these lines to both sides. Now let's forget for a second about the back and we're going to focus on the front. The first thing I'm going to do is add the flare. To add the flare, I'm going to go to the first line, the one that is 1.25 centimeters away from the ankle line, and I'm going to go out on both sides 4 centimeters away from our hem. So this is the hem at the moment, so I'm going to go out 4 centimeters on each side. And I'm going to create a curve that goes from 4 centimeters away to where the crease line crosses our ankle line and to our other 4 centimeters away. So we're going to create this curve. And I'm going to connect these outer points to my knee line. And here you can smoothen the line a little bit so it's not so edgy. So we've added the flare at the bottom of our trousers. Now we're going to separate the front in 2 panels. What we're going to do is we're going to follow the crease line all the way up, but if you see, if I continued the crease line, it would end somewhere here, and I don't want that because then the trousers are not going to be level. So what I like to do is find the middle. So this would be the middle of my front panel, and I'm going to connect it through a little curve. And what I'm going to do is transfer this dart here. So I record how big this dart is and I transfer it here. I move this and I remove it from there. The next thing I'm going to do is remove the width of my waistband. My waistband, if you've seen all my other videos, is around 4 centimeters. That's my preferred width. So I mark the waistband all along. And now that I've removed this waistband, the next thing I'm going to do is add the pocket opening. My pocket opening is going to be 7 centimeters long. This pocket is going to have 3 different pieces. It's going to have the 2 pieces of lining, the top and the bottom, and it's going to have a piece that is the backing, so that what we see here is not lining, but it's the main fabric. Now we have to define how big we want our facing to be. And we want our facing to go 6 centimeters below our opening. And finally, we want to know how deep we want our pocket to be. And my pocket is going to be 15 centimeters deep from the opening. I choose this length because it makes it big enough that I can fit my phone in there. So if we look at the pocket, we're going to have the bottom of the pocket, that is going to be the lining. We're going to have the backing. These two are going to be attached together, and this part is the main fabric. And then we're going to have the bottom of the lining that is going to be attached to the main front panel. So we're going to leave these pocket parts here for later. Now the last thing we need for the front panel is going to be the fly. The fly, I like to do it 4 centimeters wide, and it's going to be as long as our zipper plus 1.5 centimeters. My zipper is 15 centimeters, so it's going to be 16.5 centimeters. And here at the bottom is going to have this shape. And another piece we need for the front that is going to accompany the fly, it's going to go on the other side of the front, is going to be the shield. The shield is normally twice as wide as our fly, so that would be 8 centimeters. And it's going to be our zipper plus 2.5 centimeters. So if our zipper was 15 centimeters, our fly is going to be 17.5 centimeters. And it's going to be a rectangle. And I'm going to add it here. And this is going to be our shield. The last thing we haven't looked into just yet is our waistband. We're going to have these 2 pieces because the idea is that we get rid of the dart and we create a curved waistband. I'm gonna do that later when I look into the back piece, but for now it's very important that we mark these pieces, so the center front and the side front. And we leave them on the side for later. I'm also going to remove these pockets for now, so it's clearer what I do with the back piece. But without further ado, let's get into the back piece. This back piece is going to be a little bit more confusing because we're going to add flare to both of the panels, so they're going to be on top of each other. But let's try to go through it slowly. Like we did for the front, we're going to start by adding the flare here at the bottom. And like we did for the bottom, we're going to go to the first line and we're going to mark where our ankle width was. And we're going to go 4 centimeters away from that width. So this is going to be my new width. And then I'm going to extend this crease line down. Because the same way that for the front we did the curve inwards, here we're going to do the curve outwards. And to do that, we're going to go to this line here, and I'm going to look at it panel by panel. So if we look at the outer panel, I want my line to go from here to 4 centimeters away from this crease line. And if I look from here, I want it to go 4 centimeters away from the ankle width and 4 centimeters away from the crease line. So let's mark those 2 points. And now we connect the dots. So we connect this one with the opposite one through a curve. And this one to the opposite one through a curve. And like we did here, we're going to connect it to the 3 points for the knee. So the outer ones are going to go to the outer one and the inner ones are going to go to the center of the knee. It's a bit confusing to understand at the moment, but I will show you better later on with different colors. But for now, let's look into the shaping of the buttocks. The first thing I'm going to do is extend this crease line up to the waistband. And we're going to look first at the crotch line, where the crotch line and the crease line connect with each other. and we're going to go 1.25 centimeters away from this point on both sides. And like we did for the front, I'm going to transfer this dart here. So I measure how big it is and I mark it here. And I forget about this dart. And now that I have all these lines, I connect the dots. So this line is gonna go here and this line is gonna go there. So from the knee line. And again, they're gonna go back to this dart. And what we can do is just smoothen the lines a little bit and create more of a natural shape. And there we have the shaping. Now the next step is going to be mark the waistband. Again, we made it 4 centimeters wide. And this pattern also has a back pocket, and I'm going to show you where to place it in here. I'm going to mark a point here 10 centimeters below my new waistline and 5.5 centimeters away from my waistline. And I'm going to connect the dots. And this is the line where my pocket is going to be placed. Now I want to take a moment to show you how the pieces look like, because I think it's a little bit confusing at the moment. So this is the back centerpiece. And this is the back side piece. Another piece I have to show you is how big our pocket is going to be. And for that, we're going to create a rectangle of 15 centimeters by 15 centimeters. And we're going to divide this square in two. We're going to create the edge of the pocket 2 centimeters away from this line. And we're going to make this bottom part smaller, and it's going to be 10 centimeters instead of 15 centimeters. And now we just connect the dots. And this is going to be our pocket. And like we did for the front, we have here our waistband. And I'm going to mark again the center back and the side back. So let's create this curved waistband. If I add it here, here we had the center front. I'm going to add it here. We had the side front, so I'm going to put them next to each other because in between there was a dart and I'm removing the dart. Then I would add the side back and I would add the center back. So what I have to do now is just trace every single piece. I like to mark with notches where the transition goes. So here is the front and here is the back. Here is the center back and here is the center front. Last step, and we're going to be done. We have to add to the center front. If you remember, this is our center front and we have the fly. So for one of the sides of this waistband, we're going to have to add the width of the fly, which is 4 centimeters, if you remember. So I'm just going to extend this 4 centimeters. And that's it. Those are all our pieces. So here we have all our pieces, the center front, the front side, and it's very important to understand that the front side starts where the pocket opening is. We have the waistband that I forgot to tell you that you have to smoothen the lines once you've added all the pieces together. The pocket top lining, the pocket bottom lining, the back pocket, the pocket facing, the side back, the center back, and the shield. And I'm going to show you how to add the seam allowances on another paper so I can separate the backs and the fronts and it's easier to understand. So here I separated the pieces. As you can see, we have the center back and the center side. The green one is this one and the red one is this one. So the last thing to do is going to be adding the seam allowances, and I'm going to add 1 centimeter everywhere except for the center back of the waistband because it's going to be cut on the fold, and I'm going to add 0 centimeters here. I'm also not going to add anything on the hems because in my design I just left them like this, and because it's a curved hem, if I had to add seam allowances, instead of just adding seam allowances, I would add a facing to cover it because of the curve. I'm also not going to add any seam allowances on the fly, and I'm going to add 2 centimeter seam allowances at the top of the back pocket. And we remember to add all the notches on the main lines to be able to connect them later. And these are all the pieces. Now I'm just going to write down how many I'm going to cut from each, but don't worry, I will let you know once we go into the cutting table. And this is everything. We have all the pieces. One piece that I haven't drawn are the belt loops, and if you want the dimensions to draw them, you can go to my website and I have the dimensions there. Let's get into the cutting. And now that we're done with the drafting, you should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 pieces. This pattern is a little bit more time consuming than the ones I've been showing you because it has a lot of pieces and you have to attach the panels together. So we're gonna go slowly through it so we all get it done. Now, the things we're going to need for this pattern. Let's start with the fabric. You're going to need around 2 meters of any denim fabric. I'm going to be using cotton to demonstrate this pattern. But for the design I show you on the video, I used 100% cotton denim, no elasticity at all, and it's a pretty thick denim. Then you're going to need some lining fabric for the pockets. I'm going to be using 100% cotton poplin in white, easiest. And you're going to need interfacing for some of the pieces. And I like to use a medium to high sturdiness because I think the thinnest one doesn't do anything for my waistband. So I like one that is strong. Then you're going to need your zipper. You can do 2 things. You can either get a zipper that is the length that you patterned it for, which in my case was 15 centimeters, or you can get a zipper that is bigger and then we're going to cut it later on, whatever you prefer. You're going to need some pins to hold the pieces together. My favorite tool, the snippets to cut little threads, and some fabric scissors to cut onto the fabric. Now, as I told you, for this design, I'm going to be using 100% cotton, but if you use denim, it's very important that you choose the needles for the machine properly. I'm going to be using the universal ones because I'm sewing with cotton, but you should be using the jeans needles because these work better with thicker fabric. So get yourself these kind of needles and just put them in the machine. And the same stands for the thread. You're going to have thin 100% polyester thread, or you're going to have the super strong top stitching thread. Very important that if you're sewing with denim, you get yourself some top stitching thread. That's it for the materials. Let's look into the machines you're going to need. As always, you're going to need a sewing machine. These are the settings that I'm going to be using to sew the cotton together. But if you're sewing with denim, I'm going to add the settings that you should have up here. The next machine you're going to be needing is of course the iron, because if we don't press the seams flat, everything goes wrong. And finally, but this machine is optional, we have the overlocking machine. As always, I like to use this one because I like my finishes to be done properly. But if you don't have an overlock machine, whenever I say overlock, you just use a zigzag stitch from your sewing machine and that should do the trick. One last thing I want to say is that for this pattern I use 1 centimeter seam allowances everywhere because I'm going to be using normal seams. But if you want to use flat felt seams, I would advise you to add 1.5 centimeters. I just want to make this video easy for beginners, so I'm not going to be using flat fell seams because I think it's a bit much. But don't worry, because in the future I'm going to show you how to do flat fell seams and we're gonna learn together. So without further ado, let's get into the cutting and the sewing. Let's start by cutting the main fabric. As you can see it, I have it on the fold, and if you don't know how fabric works, you have the raw edge here, that is where they cut it when you go to the fabric store. This is the raw edge, and then you have all the threads here that are tied together, and this is the selvage of the fabric, and the grain of the fabric always goes parallel to the selvage of the fabric, which means that we're going to have to cut the pieces following the grain of the fabric. I have this fabric folded because I need most of the pieces to be cut mirrored, and I also have to cut the waistband twice on the fold. So I'm going to start by putting the waistband here. As you can see, it says on the fold, so I'm going to line this line here with the fold of the fabric. As you can see, this is where I have the fold, and that's how I'm going to cut it, and I'm going to cut it twice, once here, and I'm going to mark it again here. Aside from that, we have all the main pieces. We have the side front, the center front, the side back, and the center back. And we are also going to cut the pocket facing twice, the shield once, and the back pocket twice. One last thing that you need to know is that the center front, one side is going to have the fly and the other side is not going to have the fly. So we're going to continue this line that is the center front, and we're going to add the seam allowance, and we're going to ignore this side here. So I'm going to trace all the pieces with the erasable marker. And once we're done, we start cutting. Next, we're going to be cutting the lining fabric. Again, this is the selvage of the fabric because even though it looks like a raw edge, the threads are tied together, and this is the raw edge, so that means that the grain of the fabric goes this way. So I'm going to fold it in half, and I'm going to be cutting the pocket pieces. And finally, we're going to be cutting the interfacing. We only need to cut 3 pieces, the waistband twice, the shield once, and this piece of the fly once. As you can see, I don't have much fabric left, so let's see if we can make it work. So here are all the pieces. You should have 2 side backs cut in the main fabric, mirrored, 2 center backs in main fabric, mirrored, 2 back pockets, mirrored, 2 waistbands on the main fabric and 2 waistbands on the interfacing, cut on the fold, 2 center fronts cut mirrored, and 1 fly cut in interfacing, 2 side fronts cut on the main fabric, 2 pocket bottom linings cut in the lining, mirrored, 2 pocket top linings cut in lining, mirrored, 2 pocket facings cut in the main fabric, mirrored, and 1 shield cut on the main fabric and 1 cut on interfacing. And these are all the pieces you need. Let's get into the sewing. First thing we're going to be doing is interfacing all the pieces that need interface. So the shield, the 2 waistbands, and the fly of 1 of the front sides. So now we have all the pieces interfaced, and it's time to start sewing. And we're going to start with the pocket. To start with the pocket, we need the side front, the pocket top lining, the pocket bottom lining, and the pocket facing. We have all the pieces mirrored. The pocket facing is going to go on top of the pocket bottom lining. So the first thing we're going to do is overlock the bottom part of the pocket facing. And once that's done, we're going to get the pocket bottom lining and we're going to add the facing on top. And I'm going to run a stitch on top of the overlocked edge to attach it in place. So they are going to look like this. It can get a little bit confusing because the shapes are very similar, but they are a bit different. So make sure that you know exactly which is which. With this, we have the bottom part of the lining. So now let's look at the panels. So I'm going to get the pocket. This is the wrong side, this is the right side, and for the panel, this is the right side. So I'm going to put right sides together. I'm going to sew along this line with 1 centimeter seam allowance, and then I'm going to press it flat this way. So we're going to end up like this. One other step you can do is running 2 stitches here to secure the lining with the front panel. And it should look like this, both sides with 2 stitches holding it together here on the back. And now we can finally attach these 2 together, and they're going to be attached by the bottom of the pocket. So basically this is going to be attached together. So I'm going to only get both linings and pin them together. And the same with the other side. We flip it, we put right sides together. This is the right side, this is the right side. We match them and we pin them together. Now to attach them together, I'm only going to run an overlock stitch here at the bottom and here at the bottom. And if you want, you can also add a little basting stitch here to attach the pieces together, or you can do it with a pin, or you can overlock it, but I like to overlock the front panels together. And it should look just like this. So now we have both front panels done, and it's time to attach them to their significant other, the center front. If you remember, I told you that the fly should only be on one side of the center front, and here I like to cut it in both because then I don't mess up anything. So what I have to do now is remove it from here. It's better if you do it with the pattern, but I just did it by eye. And now we're going to match side with side. So if you can see, these 2 go together because that's a straight line, and these 2 go together. So to put them together, I'm going to put right sides together. This is the right side and this is the right side. So I'm going to put one on top of each other, and I'm going to match all the notches. And now that I have all these lines attached together, I'm going to run 1 stitch with 1 centimeter seam allowance all the way down to attach both pieces together. And I'm going to do exactly the same for the other front. These are both fronts, and I want to do exactly the same with the backs. So again, this is right side, I put them together and I match the notches. So we have both backs and both fronts. Let's run a stitch here with 1 centimeter seam allowance and overlock the raw edges. And once we're done connecting the panels, you can just open it like this and press the seams flat to one side. There's one last thing you can do, but this is optional. I didn't do it in my flare jeans, but you can run 2 stitches here to secure the seams on one side. I didn't do it on my jeans, but I wish I had done it because jeans fabric is very sturdy and it needs the extra holding. And I think the stitches make sure that this seam doesn't open. You see that if I pull, it opens easily. So I think it's important if you're using high weight fabric. And if you're using lightweight fabric, it's not needed. I finished it by overlocking both seams together because I think that's nicer with jeans. But if you have a lightweight fabric, for example, you could overlock this first and then separate it and then run 2 stitches here. However you prefer it is how you do it. And just like that, we have both front panels and both back panels. So now let's move into the fly. The fly is at the front. So what we're going to do is first overlock the crotch line for both fronts, and the one that has the fly also overlock the fly. And we get the shield also. We're going to fold it halfway lengthwise. We're going to press it with the iron, and I'm going to overlock the edges. The first thing we're going to do is put both fronts with right sides together. This is the right side and this is the right side. And we're going to pin along the crotch line. And then I'm going to run a straight stitch around the crotch line until a little bit past the fly, so around here. And I'm going to press it flat with the seams open. And the front should look like that. If you can see here on the right, I have the fly, and here on the left, I have just the seam allowance. Now we have to get the shield and the zipper, and we have to know that the shield goes on the side where the fly is not. So if you remember, we have the fly here, so the shield is going to be attached on the other side here. Now, how is this going to work? The shield is going to go here, and the zipper goes on top of the shield. So I'm going to get my zipper and I'm going to align this side here to the side of the zipper with the seam allowance. So I'm going to add it like this. My zipper is bigger than the shield because all my pieces are in scale, but the zipper is not. So just ignore that fact. But I'm going to align this side to the overlocked side like this. And I'm going to run a stitch to secure the zipper on this side. This is the foot that we normally have on our sewing machine, and if you can see, when you put it next to it, the zipper doesn't let it go, right? So the stitch is going to be right here, and we don't want that. So I'm going to get this foot, and this one goes way better because, as you can see, we can go closer to the zipper because the stitch is going to be put in here. So I'm going to be using this foot. And now that we have the zipper attached, we're going to attach it to the front panel. So I'm going to be attaching it to the side that doesn't have the fly. Remember, this has the fly, so I'm going to attach it here. And to do that, I'm just going to secure it with a pin. I like to have my zipper longer than the shield because then it's easier to attach. So now I'm just going to run a stitch 1 millimeter away from the seam down. So now we have it like this. It's attached through this stitch here. And now we have to attach everything to the other side of the fly, and to do that we're going to close our fly. So I'm going to get some thread and a needle, and I'm going to attach it into place. So I want to cover this. I want to cover the stitch line with my fly, which is going to be the center front, and then I'm going to baste it in place. And once this is done, we turn it around. And now we have to attach the zipper to our fly. To do that, I'm going to first secure the shield on the other side so it doesn't bother me. And I'm going to hold together the zipper and the fly. And I'm going to run a stitch on this side only with the zipper and the fly. And once we have attached these both layers together, we can do one last thing. This is optional if you want to do it, and it's attaching the fly to the front panel. We do that by drawing the fly shape, and I do it with my erasable marker. And we're just going to run a stitch all the way like this, and this will attach these two layers together. Remember to do that while you still have the shield on the other side. So be careful not to attach the shield when you run that stitch. One last thing, if you sew this part here, remember that the closer you are to this seam here, you have the zipper on the other side. And if the zipper is metallic and not plastic, be careful and do it slowly with your hand instead of your foot, because otherwise you're gonna break the needle like I just did. But now that we're done, now that this is attached, I can let go of the shield, and it's gonna go to that side. And I can remove these basting stitches here. And just like that, we have the fly done. This step always feels very difficult, and it's actually not at all. And now that we're done with the front, we're going to get to the back. Before we attach them together, I'm going to finish the back pockets. So for that, we're going to go to the ironing board. The first thing we're going to do is fold the top seam. Remember that we left 2 centimeter seam allowances. So first I'm going to fold it once. I'm using this little tool, but you can use your marker or just by eye or whatever, however you prefer it. I'm going to fold it 1 centimeter inwards. This is the wrong side facing me. And I'm going to fold it another centimeter because it was 2 centimeter seam allowance. And I'm going to do the same with the sides. So the sides had 1 centimeter seam allowance, so I just do 1 centimeter seam allowance. We have it like this, so I'm going to bring this extra in. So this is going to be our pocket, and now I'm going to run 1 stitch 1 millimeter away from the edge, and then another one 1 centimeter away from the edge. So now I have the pockets, and now we have to position them. If you remember, we already drew the line where we want to position these trousers. So what I'm going to do is mark this line here and this line here. And I'm going to connect both lines. And this is more or less where I want to position my pocket. So I like to put it like this, that it's more or less in the middle, and then I just secure it with pins. And I do the same for the other side. And now that I have where my pockets are going to stay, I can run the stitches around it. I like to run at least 1 stitch 1 millimeter away from the edge of the pocket, and if you want to follow this type of pattern where I have always 2 stitches, 1 millimeter and 1 centimeter, you can run 2 stitches. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to run one with 1 millimeter and then 1 centimeter from the edge. And now that we have both pockets done, we're ready to attach the bags together. The first thing I'm going to do is overlock these crotch lines. And once I have them overlocked, I'm going to put right sides together. This is the right side and this is the right side. I'm going to attach with pins all the way around the crotch line. And I'm going to sew with 1 centimeter seam allowance around the crotch line. And then I'm going to go to the ironing board. I'm going to open it and press the seams open. Like this. And just like that, we have the back done. So now we have both front and back. So the next thing I'm going to do is attach the front and back together. How are we going to do that, you might ask? We're going to put the back and the front on top with right sides together. This is the right side, this is the right side. So the right sides touch each other. And I'm going to pin along the side seams. So I'm going to look for the notches. And we pin the inseams. So now that we have everything pinned, I'm going to run a stitch 1 centimeter away from the edge on the side seams and on the inseam. And aside from that, I'm also going to overlock the side seams and the inseam together. And once I'm done with that, I'm going to press the seam flats as always. And this is how it should look like. And now we're ready to turn this around. As you know, I left the bottom hem without fixing, so it's just with the raw edges. If you did a facing or something, you can do that now. And the last thing we have to do is adding the waistband. For the waistband, we have these two pieces, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put both of them with right sides together. If you can see, these two are the right sides and these two are the wrong sides because they have the interfacing. So I'm going to do both right sides together, and I'm going to sew along this top line with 1 centimeter seam allowance. And once we have this seam here, we're going to press the seams open. And once we're done, I'm going to fold it again inwards and press it flat again. And now that we have the waistband done for the top, we're going to attach it here. This is the moment where all the notches are really, really important. So we're gonna match them. I'm going to put notch with notch. So let's start with the back and the center back. That is where we had the fold. We're going to continue with the side seam. And as you can see, the front, this length is less than this length because here we added the shield, right? So this is our center front line, and I'm going to attach it with the center front line here. So I'm going to have this excess on one side, that's normal. And I do exactly the same with the other side. And in this case, we're going to use all the extension, and I'm going to account for the seam allowance here. So it's gonna look like this, 1 centimeter away from the shield. And now we're going to pin all the way around. And once we have it all pinned, I'm going to run a stitch around this waistband, 1 centimeter seam allowance. And we go again in the ironing board and we try to iron it this way so that the seams get caught inside of the waistband like this, as much as we can. And now we have the waistband like this, and what we have to do is fold it like this, but you see that we have these extra things, so we have to get rid of it. For that, we're going to fold the waistband with right sides together, and I'm going to fold this 1 centimeter inwards because that's our seam allowance. I'm going to hold it into place, and I'm going to create a mark here that follows this line. And I'm going to sew along this line. And on this side, we're going to do exactly the same. I'm going to fold this inwards, this 1 centimeter in. I'm going to hold it in place. And I'm going to create a line following this straight line. And I'm going to run a stitch on this line. And we run a stitch just like this. And the next thing we're going to do is get rid of all this extra fabric. So I'm going to cut a line like this and then around this edge, I'm also going to cut through it. And we turn it around and we push it a little bit with these scissors so it gets in. And we do the same with the other side. And this is how it looks like here. And what we're going to do now is fold our waistband inwards, and this seam allowance, I'm going to fold it enough that I cover the line, the stitching line that we had before. So just like that. And be careful you don't stab yourself. And once we're done pinning all the inside, what I like to do is, oh my god, there's blood everywhere, so please ignore that. What I like to do is to add some basting stitches to not have the needles, because otherwise I stab myself. And then I run a stitch all the way around like this on the bottom. I run a stitch 1 millimeter away from this stitching line, and then away here, and then 1 millimeter away from, ow, the stitching line here. So we're gonna do that and the trousers are gonna be done. And this is how it should look like from the outside, and then from the inside you can see that the seams are encased inside of the waistband. And now would be time, if you're adding belt loops, you can add them now, or if you want to do, like I told you, a hem or a facing or something like that, is also time. But for this video, we're done. And just like that, we have these cute panties. Like always, I of course skipped how to add the button, because I don't know if you want to add one of those invisible closing things. I really dislike making buttonholes, so I hope you can forgive me and you can figure it out in your own machine. But that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this design. If you make it, as always, let me know and follow me on Instagram. My handle is _NuriaMo. And I'll see you next week with another design. Have a nice one. Bye.